All right, it says we're live. That's what it says. I can see myself moving like from 30 seconds ago. All right, let's make sure this is working correctly, everyone. It says excellent connection. We are here. It is Sunday night. It is November the 16th, the day after opening day here in Michigan firearm season. And I'm joined tonight. Well, you know what? I'm not going to introduce him yet. I want to make sure that we got a live stream going. Can you let me know that you can see me and hear me okay? And then I'll introduce the guest and we'll get going. We got some comments coming in. Rather be Fishing's here. Good evening, everyone. Loud and clear from Dan the Mattress Man. All right, great. So we are loud and clear. Glad to hear that. Captain Winn Wolf is here tonight. Winn, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
My pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate that. We're here at DREAMWEAVER Studio in beautiful downtown Ludington, Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, the jewel of Michigan right here.
It sure is.
But here's the story. I've been pleading with Winn for almost 7 or 8 months to come on the show, and he is such a busy guy, and I'm a busy guy. We finally, the stars aligned. Winn is here. If you don't know who he is, you must be living under a rock. If you fish a tournament, if you fish on Lake Michigan, on the Michigan side, I'm sure you've heard of this guy before. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but first off, I want to remind everybody that these Sunday night live streams are proudly brought to you by DreamWeaver Lures and Smart Troll. Check them out at their links down below. That's it, Sunday night live stream. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chris. I run Dark Blue Charters here in Manistee, Michigan. This channel is dedicated to helping, at least trying to help people become a better salmon angler, just a Great Lakes fisherman, better all around, I don't know, person. I don't know if we can accomplish that, but we'll try. But let's do the intro, and then we're going to get right into this.
Diver, diver, diver.
All right, we're back. So yeah, I saw a couple comments come in that said the picture's a little dark, and for some reason, yeah, I can see that it is a little fuzzy. It might be an OBS type thing. I'm not quite sure what it is. Yeah, we're just, maybe we're better a little blurry.
Yes.
maybe
it's a long
just,
weekend.
Yeah, maybe it's just better if we're a little blurry. But yeah, we understand that there might be a little issue there. But we'll forge ahead. We'll get through it. No problem at all. Let's see who we got on here. We got Bob Hunter on here. We got Chris Olson. We got Teresa Flanders on here, Jason C. You see a lot of people's names in green. If you want to join the channel membership and get your name in green and private Discord access, that link is down below. I know that Dan the Mattress Man, he's my channel moderator. He's on here. But that's not his real name. At least I don't think it is. He's on here, and he will catch any questions that I might miss. So first off, Winn, again, thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, when I think of the short list of people that I'd really want to have on this channel, you're right there, somewhere near the top.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of really good guests on here. I'm lucky to have that, and you're definitely a guy that I've been really wanting to get on for a long time. I would have loved if your wife would have been able to join it, but I know she's just getting back from out of town.
Right.
Because you guys are steadfast fishing partners for many, many years.
Yes, we have been.
Yeah, so, hey, let's, I know everybody's going to have a bunch of questions. Let's save the questions to the end. I'm just going to go through some stuff here with Captain Winn, and I'm sure I'm going to ask some things that maybe you want to. So save the questions to the end, but we'll talk about a lot of things, no doubt about it. So Winn, if you just introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about you, where you fish, and we'll go from there.
All right. Well, I grew up on the river when I was young, so at age 10 I got my first boat, which today they'd throw parents in prison if they allowed their 10-year-old to go out on a boat by themselves. But and then when I was 13, I finally got an outboard on the boat, and so I started just fishing all the time at that time. That was quite a few years ago.
Where'd you grow up, Winn?
I grew up in St. Joseph.
Okay.
So it was the St. Joseph River, and then on my 18th birthday, which was 1978, I got my charter license. I went to Chicago, took the test. Back in those days, you'd take the test, do the medical checkup, and get your license. So it was all in one day.
They gave you the stamp, and you're on your way.
You're on your own, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had the license for a lot of years, and between 1979 and 1993. I fished the lake and the river, and I took over 300 trips a year during that period.
Good Lord.
So it was every day, holidays, 2 trips a day. Getting a little too old for that now, so I don't do that anymore. I phased out of it a little bit. I still fish tournaments, still fished a lot, but phased out of it. And in the last 10 years, I've been taking out charters again, not full time, more as a semi-retired passion, I guess you might say. You know,
Semi-retired, yeah. I know how that works. Yeah,
So-
semi-retired, you end up working harder in your
sometimes.
semi-retirement,
Yeah.
than before you retired. So,
Yeah.
you still fishing out of St. Joe as your primary port?
Well, I would call it my primary port, but really I put the boat in the middle of April and start fishing out of it. We have a great spring fishery down there normally.
Oh, yeah.
But then I bounce to, I go to South Haven, fish a tournament, come back, go to Grand Haven, fish a tournament, come back. And then about the 10th of June, I bring the boat up to Manistee. And from that point on, I don't really fish out of St. Joe at all. I take the boat back around Labor Day, but I go transient the whole year with the boat. So I'm jumping from harbor to harbor. And so there's
let's throw the brakes on right there if you
Sure.
don't mind, because I got a couple questions. I'm sure everybody else does also. Tell me a little about your boat.
I have the boat that I have now it's a 35-foot Bertram. It's a older boat that I took about 13 years ago. I totally gutted it out. I stripped it totally, repainted, rebuilt. So it was everything on it was rebuilt basically. And my boat's a little unique because I do have a kicker on it.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
And there's getting to be more and more boats that are doing that. But I was one of the first ones that did it, and it's a 115 4-stroke Merc on the back of it. I use that primarily for the fishing. It's hooked in my rudders, so it works with the autopilot. But I also, when I'm cruising, sometimes I'll drop it down and use that, and it actually increases my speed.
How much more speed do you get on a cruise?
If I run the main engines at about 3,200 and run the outboard at about 4,500, I get about 6 miles an hour in speed.
So it gives you a little extra boost there.
It lifts the back end up, which by lifting the back end up, it seemed to pick up quite a bit of speed.
Well, I can imagine. Yeah, I tell you, I see your boat around Manistee all the time.
Right.
I always know when. I don't have to look at the calendar to know when a tournament's coming up, because I see your boat, Winn and Angel, or sitting right there in one of the slips,
Yeah,
normally at the city marina.
That's correct.
And I know that somewhere around here, either, whether it be Manistee or Ludington or maybe even Frankfurt, I know that you're in that area. We're getting ready for those things. What do you like rods and reels wise? Do you have a mix, or are you kind of set on one?
Well, I'm using, like most everybody, primarily the Shimano equipment. I do have some Akuma rods. I'm still not totally happy with the wire diver rods. I've kind of gone through a whole pile of those. I've got a whole garage full of different brands of those. But I would say Shimano would be the main reels or rods that I use. I'm still using the older gray ones. I haven't
mostly
gone to the new
Dakotas?
ones. Yeah, all Dakotas, yes.
Those old Dakotas are really almost bulletproof.
They're a great reel.
They are.
You can get the drags rebuilt on them.
Yeah.
And they work out really good. And,
Yeah.
and I do have some other equipment, some electric reels. And a few
Are
other
you
things I'm
a
using, but-
copper, lead core, weighted steel guy, all of the above, or do you
all the above. I've got I've got on the lead core, I've got pretty much from two to 10 color. I've got a two all the way from 2 to 10, and then on the copper, I carry every 50 foot.
Yeah,
So I've got
a bunch.
40 or 50 rods on the boat, but so I have the increments like that, and it's amazing through the season. I look back and kind of go through my equipment. I find that so much of it I didn't use through the year. I like the lead cores when I'm fishing shallow water or steelhead. You get a little more distance on it, get it out. And in the spring when we're fishing the colder water with small spoons, it seems like I do better with the lead core than I do
Your wife
copper.
says there might be a garage sale coming soon. So
Well,
be
there
careful what
should
you
be.
say. Be careful what you
That's
say.
okay. Yeah, that's okay. I tell her she can buy as many shoes as she wants, and I'll buy as many lures and rods as I want.
Absolutely.
It makes a great relationship.
That's a happy medium right
Yeah,
there.
It is.
All right. Copper, lead core, weighted steel, all the above. That's pretty much what I am as also. I'm like you. Lead core I like on my shorter or my shallower depths. I think it produces really, really well. When I get down, the 300 copper depths, 60 feet down,
Right.
deeper and deeper, I really like the copper and the weighted steel. They all fish really well, though.
Yeah, I think it's good. There's times that I'll try lead core on one side and copper on the other, and it's amazing how you have one day one seems to outproduce the other, and you could. And I've even had times that I've actually saw where my lead core was doing better than my copper, for example. So I would switch the lures over and flip them around.
Yeah.
And the lead core is still doing good with the different the lures that were on the other side. So I think there are times that they both work. I think it's good to have both of them.
I agree. Absolutely agree. So, Winn, I know you're a big tournament guy, and there's a lot of people that watch this channel that like to either have gotten into salmon tournaments or want to get into salmon tournaments. So,
Sure.
if there was like one tournament you could pick on the whole trail, what is your favorite? I know that's a tough one.
That's a
isn't
tough
it?
one.
I know.
I'm going to be biased and say the St. Joseph only because we run it.
Yeah, you're right there.
So yeah, and it's a lot of fun. But no, I would say they're all good. The Ludington puts on a great
They do.
tournament.
They really do.
A good production, good venue. But everybody, almost every harbor really goes through a lot of work to put on a nice tournament. Running the St. Joseph tournament, Angie, my wife, and I, and a couple other people are the ones that kind of put it on, and I know how much work it goes into putting a tournament on. So I have a lot of respect for each of these harbors as we move around as to the amount of effort, amount of planning that goes into putting on a tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like you just make a couple phone calls,
and
throw the internet up and on the website
expect it.
and expect it to run. There's a lot of work that goes into them.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But,
Yeah, Ludington. I'm a big fan of Ludington. Also, of course, I'm like you. I'm going to be a little biased towards Manistee. I wish we still had the additional tournaments here in Manistee. We're down to just a couple now. Well, that's fine.
Yeah. And it was too bad that the Triport one this year got canceled.
Yeah.
But that's, when you're fishing these tournaments, that's one thing that you always have, the weather is something that you can't do anything about it.
So when you're a nomad. You're all over the lake
Yes,
at
I am.
any different time. When you're getting to a new port, you're getting ready to fish a tournament, maybe run some charters, because I know you do run charters out of
I do.
alternate
As I move
ports.
around, I take charters.
And I know
out.
you're a successful fisherman. You and your wife, you're both great anglers. When you get to a port, whether it be for tournament fishing or for charter fishing, where do you immediately go to start getting ready to prepare for that tournament?
Well, I think what you have to almost look at is your salmon are always moving. They might camp out in an area for a certain amount of time if there's bait and a water temp there, but you have to always know that the salmon are moving. So one thing you're looking at, I'm going to use the example, if I pull into Ludington, are the salmon there? Or are they to the south? Are they to the north? Or are they out in the middle of the lake? Or are they just non-existent? And that's something that you have to analyze, and every year is different. We didn't have a lot of salmon right away in St. Joe, for example, this spring, and they showed up right on the St. Joe tournament, which kind of caught me by surprise, but they did. And so looking for the salmon, I guess the point I'm getting at is that's really important. And you can go on fishing reports, websites. There's all sorts of places that you can get a good report. find out how are they doing in South Haven, because if they're doing good in South Haven this weekend, maybe Saugatuck or Holland might be good next weekend.
Sure.
Usually the fish are always moving to the north.
Yeah, correct.
Based in. So, and they're always moving. And then they come around. I don't know how many times they make their circle around the lake, but they're always on the move.
Yes, they are.
The second thing I look at is, and which is very important in a tournament, is how is the lake trout fishery? You know, almost every harbor has an area that your lake trout fishery will be, where it holds some lake trout.
Right.
Some areas it's not very many, but other areas there's quite a few. And so I concentrate on the lake trout as much as I do on the salmon for the
Okay.
tournaments. If you look back in the history of a lot of these tournaments, a lot of them are won because somebody's got 3 or 4 big lake trout
Absolutely.
mixed in with their kings.
Yes.
And mostly, especially this year, are the salmon, the size of the salmon was much smaller this year.
They were,
You know,
yep. But that was across the board too.
Oh,
It wasn't
across
like
the
one
board,
port had
right.
big ones and the other ones had small ones. It was across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we were catching 20 or 18 to 24 pound kings, though, then it really, in a tournament, you're not going to pay as much attention to the lake trout because those are going
Right.
to be your 8 to 15 pounds,
Sure.
let's say.
Yep.
So, but this year, the lake trout were as big as the kings were.
Absolutely.
And so it did pay off to fish for those, and it's been that way for the last few years.
So when you get to a port and you're saying, hey, you know, we got to find the salmon, we got to think where they're moving, you know, check the reports. Do you hit tackle shops also, or do you tend to stay away from that advice that comes in tackle shops?
No, I think it's just networking. I don't
Yeah.
have a great networking
Yes.
system, but I do have enough that I can get a pretty good feel of how the fishing has been
Yes.
in that harbor. And you want to look at how has it been for the last week. Is it getting better or is it getting slower? Because that's something you also, knowing that those fish are moving, if it's slowly getting worse, and I'm going to use the example of Muskegon. We were doing quite well right before the tournament out of Muskegon. All of a sudden, during the day before the tournament, it was slow where we're fishing. Well, ended up that the fish had moved and you had to go up by Whitehall or north to get better fishing. And
Yeah.
that's what we had to do.
All the way up to Little Point sometimes. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of watching the currents, watching the weather. You know, the weather's going to change things. The currents are going to change things.
Can I ask you right there? What are you looking at for the currents? For the person that's just, you don't have to go into great depths, but you know, if you were just getting into this and you say, okay, I got to watch the currents, what are you looking for in those currents?
Well, what I look for, you know, you've got basically 2 currents. You got your surface current, and then you do have a current that's underneath. You know, every day I look at the surface current. The main reason for that is basically, you know, when you're trolling, trying to set up a troll, if you've got a strong south current, you know,
Right.
you really have to know how to troll into it or troll with it.
Right.
I would say that's one place where the smart troll is very handy. Quite honestly, I bought the smart troll 2 years ago, and it sat in a box for the first year.
You'd be
didn't
shocked
use
how
it.
many people I've heard say that.
Yeah.
They're afraid to
So-
put it on there.
So last year, I went ahead and mounted the transducer and went through the effort. And I'd have to say that was, we used it, it was a very important tool. And where that's an important tool is if you have a current or a strong wind and you think there's days that we're trolling on the surface, we're almost leaving a boat wake thinking, well, we're going way too fast, but down at the baits, we're at 2.6, 2.5.
Correct.
So it
Yes.
really makes a difference.
Yes.
And it could be a fish hawk, the smart trolls. I like the smart troll. It's worked out really well. I do still have a fish hawk and use that too. And sometimes it's nice to compare the both of them. But
Yes.
I think the fish hawk or the smart troll has worked out better for me recently. And
Do you have your smart troll set up on your divers primarily, or do you have it spread out?
I put one. I'll use it on my diver really only if I'm fishing shallow water where I want to get like just off the bottom. I use it more for the depth that the diver is running.
Right.
I don't. I use it. I put it. I have another one I have on one downrigger. I have 4 downriggers on the boat. One downrigger I don't use to fish off of. I use it. I have my smart troll on there, and I just adjust it up and down. Different depths to see, what we got. Where's, what's the speed?
Yes.
Now that. So,
Yes.
So I use that one as more just to for that. But speed, bottom line to all this fishing is speed. And I always joke that if you can't figure it out, troll west. West is best, because there are times it just, you might be going crosswise with the current, but at least you might figure it out. Or if they're fishing slow, you move out until you figure out where the fish are.
Sure.
Too.
Yep.
That's very
Absolutely.
common,
That's a great point. Yeah. One of the things I look at when you're talking about currents also is where's that deeper current pushing that water temps around also.
Mm-hmm.
If you have cold water, if there's a strong current coming from the south, it might be bringing warmer water.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa, if it's coming from the north, you might all of a sudden have a chill, and the fish, we know what happens when the water goes ice cold. They tend to spread out. So yeah, watch the currents. Get to know the area. You talked a little about networking. You said you have a small network, but obviously it's a very trustworthy network. That's one thing I advocate also, is get into a good network of people that you can trust.
Yeah.
People that are not going to tell you, they don't want to come in second place, so they tell you
Yeah, I was
a
going
different
to say,
place to
when
go.
you're dealing with fishermen, I don't know if there's really, that's a challenge,
Right.
And it's it gets a little tricky, mostly very close, right before a tournament, because everybody's out there to win, and you're not going to show your poker hand, So if you do have something figured out, it gets a little tough on the networking. I would say where it's good is really analyzing what's taking place the week before a tournament. Probably is more important than
So pre-fishing.
Pre-fishing or keeping your ears open as to what's going on. And it's not just at the harbor you're fishing out of. I pay close attention to the harbor north and the harbor south. Kind of get a feel of where the where the best fishing is at.
There's several tournaments, I know are running out of Benzie or Frankfurt,
Right.
and I see plenty of those boats right around Manistee. So,
Oh, definitely.
you're not confined. A lot of them are Michigan water only, but you are not confined to that port. There's a lot of boats out there nowadays. I see 2 or 3 on the tournament trail now that can do 70, 80 miles an hour.
Right.
And they can be anywhere they want in a blink of an eye.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. And
So there's a benefit to that, but there's pros to it and there's cons to it also.
I was going to say, sometimes they chase rainbows that they shouldn't be chasing. So it doesn't always pay off, but it does at times.
Sure,
There's
absolutely.
times that having that speed. I don't have the speed when I'm fishing in a tournament. I'm running a little harder than I do on a normal day, so I may be running at 28 to 30 miles an hour. Where a normal day I'm at 24, 25 miles an hour. And but those guys go by you. They're fishing before
I can hear him before I see him. I hear him a long way before I can see him. I know who's coming.
It's a whole different face of the tournament. Those boats are coming on stronger and stronger.
Sure.
Where I fish down in Alvarado, Florida, the center console's down there with four engines on it, just a very common sight.
Yeah.
Up here, it turns the head. But
Yeah.
it's becoming a very, the outboard is becoming a very popular way of going.
Well, there's if you look back, where salmon fishing has come from, say from the 70s and the 80s until now. And I know you've been fishing, during that time period. If you look at the advancement in technology, let alone anything else, just technology as sonars, depth finders,
Right.
smart troll systems, fish hawks, lead core, copper, all those things. It's a wonder anybody caught a fish back in 1981, but they did.
Sure.
A lot of those
Yeah.
old things still work.
And they
But
still do.
We are lucky with boats. Also, you're talking about the outboards now becoming a thing. And that's one thing you touched on already that I wanted to ask you about is your outboard kicker on that boat. What brought you to decide to put the outboard on there instead of running with a main motor?
Well, originally I have a boat. It's a blackfin, which looks just like my boat, but it's a little bit smaller. It's a 32 foot that I used in Florida. And when I'm in Florida, we did a lot of kite fishing down there. And when you're kite fishing, you're basically drifting but barely moving around while you're flying your kites for sailfish. So I put a 60 horse Yamaha on that blackfin for Florida. That's where I started, and it worked great. Loved it, and still have the blackfin. Haven't used it for quite a while, but that's when I decided, when I renovated this Bertram, I went ahead and put the 115 on there. There are some boats that have smaller ones, and they get by just fine. Like Paulie from Riverside,
Yep.
I think he's
got
got
a
his
90.
boat's a heavier boat than mine. Yeah, he's got, is that what it is? A
The
90?
Suzuki 90, if I
Yeah,
remember
90
right.
horse, and it does a wonderful job for him.
Yep.
So you don't have to go up to a 115. You could go smaller, but it is nice to be able to shut the main engines off and have it nice and quiet. and not a lot of vibration. I think there's certain times it doesn't make any difference. There's other times, for example, when I'm fishing steelhead out deep, which we haven't done a lot of that lately.
We haven't.
Not like
yes,
the old days.
You're absolutely right.
But in the old days, it was really nice because it was quiet. You could kind of cut through the different breaks out there and everything. I think it actually produced better.
Do you find you can dial your speed a little better with the outboard versus a main motor?
Yeah, you have to get used to it because the response isn't immediate. You know, you kick the speed up just a little bit,
Sure.
and it just takes a little bit more to get the speed going.
Absolutely.
But no, you definitely can get it any speed you want, including getting down to just a crawl. For example, if you've got a nice king on or something, you don't want to put the boat in neutral, but on the outboard, I can bring it right down to a low where I'm just barely moving, maybe a half a mile an hour, and get better control.
I think, if I remember right, you were one of the first boats that I saw that had the outboard on the back, and then
It was, yeah.
And then there was a few other, like Paul Schlafly from Riverside. He's done Netminder's done it. There's a few other ones I've seen who've done it also.
That's correct.
You do lose the shoot down rigger.
You do lose that.
Do you miss the shoot down rigger?
No, I've got 4 downriggers, and I don't think those fish really know if that downrigger is off the back or if it's off the
Off
side.
corner,
But
yeah.
I do have a back downrigger that I tip towards the engine, so it's not right down the center, but it is because I'm running my outdoor.
You're mimicking it.
also, so yeah, so I'm faking it. But,
Absolutely. Hey.
And that's the rod that I always run down on the bottom, no matter where I'm at. And,
Hey, let's talk about that then a little.
Okay.
What do you like to run on that deep presentation? Normally on that mimicked center down rigger.
Well, I use a 23-pound ball, so I do have the Magnum metals. There are some of the riggers really can't handle that weight of ball.
No, you're absolutely right.
But I do use a heavier weight.
23 pounds.
Yeah, I think it's a 23.
That's
yeah.
pretty heavy.
Yeah, so and the Magnums can handle actually more than that.
Do you prefer the old round cannonball
It's
shark?
around
What do you?
with a fin on it? Yes,
Okay, yep, same here.
So, and no matter where I'm fishing, maybe not in the early spring, but when I from say mid-May on, I've always got that rod within 3 or 4 foot of the bottom all the time.
Okay.
You know, it's and I would say that I've caught. I mean, it's primarily for lake trout, but I catch every day. I always get 1 or 2 or a few salmon on that
Absolutely.
rod also. So
They do linger down there, especially
as a matter
later
of
in the
fact, I
day.
really think a lot of your kings are just laying on the bottom.
I
all
always
the
say
time.
they're like
And
us,
so-
you know, they go and they eat a whole pizza and then they go take a nap.
Drop it down.
Abs-
yeah.
Yep, they go lay on the
so-
couch and take a nap.
Yeah, so-
I agree with you.
So I always run that down. I always run a spinning glow on it, and the salmon. Like I said, I catch plenty of salmon on the spinning glow down
Yeah.
on the bottom also.
Do you run that with a rotator or do you just run it naked?
No, a big paddle.
Big paddle?
Yeah, run it with a big paddle. And,
What's your preferred color on that? Or do you not, does it depend on the day?
It depends on the day. I would say the tips to running a spinning glow, and there's a couple of probably really important tips. One is I don't go heavier than 30-pound test on my spinning glow.
Yes, yes.
A lot of people are running 40, 50-pound test, and I don't think that spinning glow spins as freely as it does with 30-pound tests. And
Same, I do the
I don't
same
think
thing.
I'd want to go lighter than 30. I mean, it would work with lighter. But,
I'm at
but
35, so
yeah.
we're right in the same ballpark.
The other thing I do is I always put a bead in front of my spinning glow.
Yes.
You know, and the main reason for that bead is just that if there's any debris that slides down your line, it'll catch on that bead instead of on your spinning glow. So your spinning glow continue. There's times you'll bring it in and you'll find some moss or something stuck into that bead. If that moss gets stuck into your spinning glow is going to just down there and wobble. It won't work properly.
Very, very good point.
Yeah. And the other thing I do is I use 6-inch rubber bands on that.
Okay.
I tighten them. I use a blocks release. And I tighten it up real tight, and then you can buy them from Uline, but they're actually 6-inch rubber bands. I'll take the rubber band, wrap it 5-6 times, and take both ends and stick it into the blocks.
The old black and band combo.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
reason for that is that down that deep, you want that fish to hit it and have to sit there and work at it a little bit before it releases off the
pop it.
downward. Yeah, because if you use a regular release and he hits down, down on the bottom in 200 foot of water, there is so much slack that he's going to get that not saying you won't get the fish, but your production rate is much better if you use a rubber band.
I agree with you. There's so much blowback just on that line alone that
Oh,
fish
yes.
really can get a lot of slack when it
Yeah.
when you don't want it to. When you're running that deep presentation, do you run braid on that certain rod, or do you run mono?
No, most of the time I'm running braid, and then I use, I put fluorocarbon on it.
Yes.
I run about 40 foot of fluorocarbon.
Yeah.
There again, I just use 30-pound test fluorocarbon.
Yeah, because that braid with that no stretch, that I think you get a lot better
It
hookups
makes-
on that deep presentation.
makes a big difference.
I think it
Yeah,
does too.
it
But you're
does.
absolutely right. You do have to run a mono leader on the at least mono or fluorocarbon, because if you
Yeah.
put braid into a blacks, it will destroy that braid.
Yeah.
And
No, I
ask me how I figured that out, Winn.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask me how I figured that out. What's your trolling speed when you run those deep depths? Do you like to creep it right down?
No, I run. I really run that at this. I'd say if I were to average out the speed I troll every day out there, it would be maybe 2.6.
Okay.
If I were just to average out the whole season, so
Sure.
what was my average speed? So around 2.6 or so, 2.7. And that one down that deep, I do run something larger, gaudy. I say gaudy with it, and I run the spin and glow at a 40-inch lead, so it's a little bit longer lead than
40-inch, behind that paddle.
Yeah, and but something big and gaudy down there, and just keep it just out. It's tricky, because when you let it down, you'll hit the bottom,
Yes.
and you got to make sure you shut the downrigger off quick enough, and then after about a minute or two, you got to lower it again because you get blowback.
Yeah, right.
And so you got to play with it. It's a lot of work to keep that bait down close to the bottom.
I agree.
But I would say that's one of my best producing rods day in and day out.
So if you're going to tell somebody, hey, you want to get a few extra fish in the boat, that's a system they should definitely incorporate.
They definitely should. Yeah.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you. We take a lot of good fish with that same system. And the way lake trout are these days, it seems like there are some really, really big ones out there.
Oh,
Game-changing
each year
lake
just
trout.
seems like they're bigger.
Yep.
I mean, I had probably 20 lake trout this year that were over 16 pounds.
Absolutely.
Where in the old days, if you caught a 16-pound lake trout, it was a big lake trout.
You were
So
doing
it's,
something special.
Yeah.
You were driving around showing it to everybody. Yeah,
I mean, very common. A very common lake trout. It's 12, 14 pounds now, which things have changed.
Yes. Yep.
So.
I encourage people. There's a lot of people that I hear down or talk down about lake trout. We don't like to fish lake trout because they don't have the fight that a king does. They don't have the same table fare.
Right.
I highly encourage people, go give it a try.
Yeah.
When I have people come on the boat and say June, when lake trout fishing around Manistee is really, really good, and then we go out and we specifically target those lake trout, every one of those groups come back with a big smile on their face. Sore arms, big smiles, and a cooler full of fish.
Yeah.
And I've never had a complaint come out of a single one of them.
No,
I think it's an overlooked fish.
No, I think it's a great fishery. Definitely in tournaments, it's a necessary fish.
Oh, yeah.
But on a
Win or
day in
lose
and
a
day
tournament.
out, people do complain about lake trout. But there are periods of the season that if you don't have lake trout, there's going to be a lot of charter captains fishing out of that harbor that are going to be
Yeah.
a lot of disappointed customers because it's a fish that doesn't move around, doesn't migrate, it isn't always on the move like your salmon are.
And most of the time, they're very hungry.
Yeah,
They don't get big for no reason.
no. So,
All right. So you got that deep downrigger going. What are some of you run 4 divers, 2 divers? What's the rest of your spread normally look like, Winn?
it varies, obviously currents and everything, but I'm usually running 4 divers.
Okay.
If I'm really fishing lake trout, then I'll run 2 wire divers out, 300-400 foot, having those work at the bottom.
Work on the bottom. Absolutely.
And then I'll run a couple shorter divers. If I'm just fishing salmon, aiming at the salmon, and I'll run 4, 2 highs, 2 lows, and so one other thing that maybe is information to somebody, maybe it isn't. And I was looking, you've got a deep diver over here.
Yeah.
I take all my deep divers and I take the heavy weight off. And
You
I
can
take-
open that up. if you want.
Well, either way, but I take the heavy weight off, and I take and then I take the regular size weight that goes on the smaller diver and put that on.
Yes.
And I have tested it time and time again, and it's within a few feet of being of the smaller weight going the same depth as the bigger one.
So you think the ring affects it more than the weight does?
Well, I just don't like it's just all the Yeah, definitely that. And it's just all that extra weight of this, you know, that I just find that the small, I like the smaller weights on them, but that's, everybody's got their own preference.
I'm the same category. I put the smaller weights on a lot of mine for my high divers as well.
Some people like these because they dive real quick, you know, when you're setting lines, you know,
Yes.
they get right down. So there is some advantage to that heavier weight, but.
You just leave that there.
Okay. But I
You
personally.
take it home with you if you want, man.
I see a whole box of them in there, yeah.
There's many boxes in there. Without a doubt.
Christmas. But anyway, no, so that's one thing that I do. And another thing that I do, which is different than most everybody, is that on my wire divers, I use an Albright knot, but I put about 15 foot, or about 12 to 15 foot of 40-pound test fluorocarbon that I use an Albright knot that to my wire.
Okay.
I don't go with the wire all the way to my diver. And the main reason for that is that when you've netted a fish, I don't know if you've seen where the fish is flopping around, you got that wire flopping around and kinks and gets curled up and everything.
Absolutely.
This way all your wire is up in your reel, and all you've got is that fluorocarbon.
So you don't get that curl that you always
yeah,
get with that
you
wire.
don't have all that.
That stress curl, yeah.
And I really like that. I've been doing that for years. And
That's a great idea.
It's
That's
worked out great.
something I'd never considered before. That's a great idea. So sticking with divers, if you don't mind, do you have a preferred diver color?
You know, to be honest, I use a lot of black divers.
That's what I use.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's amazing how many people are slowly going over to the black divers. I haven't, in all the years I've been fishing, I still haven't figured out if it really makes that much difference what color.
I
it
haven't
is.
either, Winn, to be
It's,
honest with you. I'm the same boat. But if it works for me, I stick
yeah,
with it.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
some people will swear by different colors, and I've tried different colors thinking that they make a difference. But in the big picture, I don't know if the color of the diver is that important.
Right.
You see purple ones, pink ones.
You see
every color
everything.
out
You
there,
see
yeah.
doctored ones, custom ones,
Yeah.
everything. Now the new S-clip divers, you know, there's so many different ways to do it now. But
I mean, it would make sense that the color of the diver would make a difference because obviously that fish is seeing it.
right.
But I don't know if it does or not.
I agree with you.
Something I don't
Maybe
know.
yes, maybe no. So how you like that, YouTube? We don't know. That's great.
No idea.
Great programming
So,
here.
yeah.
Sticking with divers, another thing. What are your leads off your divers primarily? Link the lead back to your presentations.
On there again, I vary it. If I'm fishing for salmon, I'm running not as long. I go maybe a 20-foot lead. I
20
keep
foot,
it a
yep.
little bit tighter. If I'm fishing lake trout, sometimes I'll go out 30, 40-foot lead
Yes.
on them.
Yes.
If we're fishing for lake trout where I have this diver hitting that bottom, it just seems like 30 or 40 feet back where that, you know, where you got your trout rig back there seems to be more effective for me. But there again, everybody's got their own preference. You know, some people like slide divers where they
Yes.
put them back 100 feet, you know, and I think it's all what works for you, what you got confidence in.
Yes, that is the word right there,
Yeah.
confidence. Is
Yeah.
If it works for you and it's working in a different way for somebody else, you're going to stick with what works for you.
Yeah.
And if they both produce, they both produce.
Exactly.
Yeah. And by the way, your wife says she would like pink divers on the boat.
Oh, of course she would.
So
Yeah,
you might have to go get a rattle can of paint on the way home and go paint all your divers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. 18 to 22 feet on my salmon divers. I have experimented with longer leads on the trout divers, and what I found is you don't get quite as much slime and sludge.
Right.
With those.
They
long
ride
leads.
a little higher.
They
up.
do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think those lake trout, they'll come up, but I don't think they'll come, you know, I mean, well, obviously they would go up 20, 30 feet if
Yes.
they were hungry, but for these lake trout that are laying, or even the salmon that are laying close to the bottom, I think they'll come up 4, 5, 6 feet
I agree
to
with
grab
you.
something.
Yes.
But I don't think that, so you want to keep, you know, so if it floats back a little higher, I don't think 5, 6 feet off the bottom hurts anything,
Mm-hmm.
but there again.
And there's nothing wrong with trying different leads on one side of the boat versus the other side, and
Oh,
seeing which
sure.
one produces.
So whatever you get confidence in, there again,
There-
I don't think it
And
makes,
that's something that we learned in tournaments a long time ago is experiment with your leads leading up to the tournament. Experiment with different speeds. Experiment with your leads. Experiment with your spoon sizes. Experiment with your paddle sizes.
right.
Don't get locked in where, hey, this is what's been working all year. We have to run it this way this time. Find out what those fish want leading up to that tournament. It can pay off big time.
Yeah,
Big
definitely
time.
can. So
Yeah.
But,
So salmon fishing. I mean, we talked a lot about lake trout. What are some of your favorite salmon presentations? What puts the big ones in the cooler for you?
you know, I would say, you know, starting in the spring, we're using a lot of spoons, but that switched this year to your spinnies and flies. I would say, quite honestly, and I run a lot of meat, don't get me wrong, but this year I ran a lot of what we call vegan rigs, which are basically, your meat rig, but with a fly on instead of a piece of meat at the end. So you're using a fly. A great one is that I used is chili peppers, what they call chili peppers, are little red and black.
Red and black.
Fly, yeah.
Yes.
With a pickled sunshine fly at the end of it, which is the color combination doesn't make any sense. It's not very color coordinated, but it seems to have worked.
It doesn't have to make sense to us.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but when I'm running a meat rig, I mean, I must have 500 meat heads on the boat, and I'm constantly trying different ones. I would have to say that the DREAMWEAVER, in all honesty, I've tried the DREAMWEAVER ones for a while, and I wasn't getting them to work good. But recently, they've changed their head. Now I can pull this out of the package, and I would say out of almost all the pre-made meat rigs that are out there, that their meat head, they've adjusted it, and it works really well. I'm really happy with it.
Could not agree with you more on that.
yeah.
When they are fantastic running right out of the package.
It must have been, a year ago or 2 years ago?
about 2 years
In
ago.
fact, I even called Shane one day from DREAMWEAVER and just said, "Did you guys do something different with your meat heads?" Because I said, "I'm catching fish on them now." So, but and I could get the other ones to work, but you had to, heat them up or adjust
Yes.
them. It was a lot of
Yes.
work to make them work right. There's a lot of different brands of these out there, and most of them will all work great.
If you can get them dialed in.
If you got to get them dialed in. Boy, if you have a meathead that's catching fish, lock
lose
it up.
it.
Yeah, lock it
Don't
up
lose
or
it.
guard it with your life, because they don't all work the same. Not all meatheads are the same.
Yeah,
So,
another company that I've grown to trust a lot is GRC out of New York.
Okay.
Their meatheads are fantastic also. DREAMWEAVER and GRC are my go-tos on the boat. What do you prefer for your strips?
I use quite a few. I use a lot of really. I've used the DREAMWEAVER. That's, and I'd say Familiar Bite would be the
Yep.
most common one that I use.
That's a good
It
one.
Seems, it seems to hold up pretty good. I think they all work pretty good. And there again, whatever you have confidence in.
There you
I
go.
think
Yep,
that's,
you're going to go back to it.
yeah.
Yeah, this year, last couple of years, I've run all DREAMWEAVER, and I've been really impressed with their durability lately. You can get 2 or 3 fish on one strip if you push it, if you're lucky too.
Yeah.
But they do have really, really good durability. Where if they don't get hit, you can take it out of the water at the end of the day, throw it back in the package, and you can run it again the next day.
Yeah.
They all work pretty well. But yeah, DREAMWEAVER really has gotten my confidence in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Really well.
Spoons, spoon size varies throughout the year, I'm sure.
it
But
varies,
if I had to lock you down on like 3 of your top spoons, Winn, what comes to mind? And I know you fish St. Joe a lot, so you got a lot of coho down there, a lot of steelhead. So
Yeah.
we'll
You know-
keep that in mind.
Quite honestly, I would say when it comes to the spoons that I'm running, in the spring I've run quite a few spoons, like your super slams, your stingers, your smaller spoons. As the season progresses, I still run spoons, but I don't run a lot of them. I'm usually using flies or
Flash or
meats.
fly?
Yeah. I will run some spoons up high, and to answer your question, probably. Had some of the old, probably my favorite still is the old Steely Stomper.
Steely Stomper?
Steely Stomper.
That's
So
one
the old
of the
time-
ones that always pops in my head, too.
Yeah, if I'm out on a troll and I want to put a couple of high lines out, the water's just right, that it just seems like that always produces some fish.
It does.
Yeah,
That is a tried and true color, without a doubt.
It is.
So
It's
everybody,
worked
go to the DREAMWEAVER website right now and run them dry on Steely Stomper. It really is. If you don't have that in the box, you really should.
It's a great bait for when you're fishing up high.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I'll get kings on it now and then also.
Oh yeah, no, it works all
Yep.
the time, and
Yeah, you never know when that 28 pounder is going to be up there, biting on a 2-color for whatever reason when the break's down 70 feet. But they do it. They absolutely do it.
And we had a little period in August here in Manistee where I was running a lot of mag spoons, mostly first thing in the morning, moonshines and
Yes.
any of your larger mag spoons, and they produced really well. I mean,
Yes.
spoons are great. You kind of have that morning bite, and then it switches to, maybe backing your speed back a little bit, going a little deeper, and kind of reworking the water.
Absolutely.
But right away, spoons are a wonderful thing to use. You
Now,
know?
I know you're big into the flasher fly. You've already mentioned that. If I had to lock you down on a couple of your favorite colors on that, a couple of favorite flies, a couple of favorite flashers.
Yeah, I would say, you know, anybody that fishes quite a bit out there, you hear more about the pickled sunshine. And, you know, you'll hear
yeah.
all different names of flies, but it's amazing how often you'll hear the word pickled sunshine.
Where it sits right over there.
Yeah. So you know, I mean that fly is probably for somebody that doesn't have a full arsenal of different colors. If they're going to go to the bait shop and buy 2 or 3 flies, that's the most day in and day out best fly color.
I agree.
And there's different brands of this, but that coloring of like a dark green with the white with a little sparkle. So so that would be my favorite, I would say, on the flies day in and day out. Now
I can't disagree with you on
the
that.
spinnies, sometimes I will go, you know, if it's a dark day, I might go with a little darker coloring.
Sure.
And then lighter days, you know, flip over to more of a silvers and yellows or lighter greens or whatever. So there again.
Do you like 8-inch spin doctors with your flies or 10-inch?
You know, I use on my meat rigs. I run the 10-inch on the flies. I do run just the 8-inch.
Same here.
I think they work
Yep.
just as fine.
Same here.
So,
There's a 10-inch right there and an
Right.
8-inch right there. Yep. Absolutely. Those meat rigs run fantastic behind those 10-inch spin doctors. That thing right there, I mean, that is probably, you talk about the pickled sunshine being like the mother of
throw
all
it behind
flies.
that. And
Yeah, if you put a pickled sunshine behind that double pearl 8-inch spin doctor, you're going to catch a fish sooner or later. Those things just absolutely work together.
yeah, I think through the years, there's no question that the pickled sunshine, that coloring, you know, there's the Riverside, which is a different brand.
KRW, yep,
but
which
they're
is still
all,
really good.
You know, they're the same coloring and they work great.
If you look at the KRW Riverside and the pickled sunshine, the fly is exactly the same. The only difference is the head.
Yeah,
You know, where
right,
Dreamweaver
they've got
has the raft head and the bullet head for the KRW.
That's correct.
And they're both fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, they both work really, really well. Do you, here's a question I commonly get. Do you run it with the red showing, or do you flip it over, which is supposed to be the correct way, and flip it with the red underneath?
You know what? I usually do flip it like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
You put the red under?
Yeah, and the reason I do that is just it gives it, you know, you can see how much it sticks out. Now it does go in. Does it make a difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the way I've always run it.
Yes.
Just like that. So
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I run it with the red showing. So
yeah, and that's
I do.
Yeah, there again.
it catches
10
fish.
people, you get.
Yeah,
10
five
different
on
answers.
one way and 5 on the other way, without a doubt.
I do run a small bead ahead of mine. I don't know if you do or not, but I do run the small bead at the head of the.
I do not do that.
Yeah. So
Just
I
keep
don't
some
know
of the filter out, or
I don't
filter some of
know.
the crud out.
I have always done it. If you looked at some of the old flies in the older days, they all had a bead up there. So I've just always done it because it was always done. I don't know if it maybe adds a little bit more weight up there, but does it make a difference? I don't know.
You don't know, but it catches fish, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like you boiled it down to earlier, confidence. If it works,
That's really what
if
it
it's
is.
not broke,
It's,
just don't try to go and fix it.
Yeah.
You a plug guy later in the year?
Yeah, well, you know, in August, for example, up here around Manistee, there again, I like plugs first thing in the morning. You know, get the plugs out, get them, most of them in the water. When the salmon start getting out of temperature, which they will, you get into August and the break is down 100 foot, but those fish are still up in that higher area.
Yes.
First thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
Plugs are great. The nice thing about plugs, usually when they hit it, they stick pretty good too. And
Or you wonder how they don't.
Yeah, when they get off, you wonder. So, yeah, I like plugs. Plugs are a great thing to have. They're not.
That one right there, that double glow Dreamweaver. Like you said earlier, if you're going to put one thing in the box,
Yeah,
that's I could not recommend that one any more than any other. That double glow Dreamweaver, Captain's Choice, fantastic plug right there. What's some of your favorite ways to run your plugs? You run it on everything, or do you prefer to run it on cores, coppers?
usually at that time of the year, I'm using more copper. You know, and I run them on the coppers if the traffic's not bad. You got to understand, off of Manistee, for example, on the bank there, first thing in the morning, you know, you got 150 boats, and so it gets a little dangerous having anything off the side of the boat with the way some of these guys fish. But so you have to be a little careful. Or I'll run it. Sometimes if I'm like this year, we had a little period that the fishing was so good, I would run I would run one off each of my outdowns. I would just run a plug, and then run my divers. We were only fishing 4 to 6 lines there for a while because the fishing was so good.
Yep.
You really didn't need to put out long lines.
Correct.
And maybe later in the day, if I moved out to deeper water, I'd throw some longer ones out. But right away in the morning, 6 rods is really all you need.
There was days we couldn't get long lines out.
No.
We're in a frantic frenzy trying to get a long line out.
Yeah.
And everything else is still going.
It's
You want to
just-
try to get 1 or 2 out there, but man, there's some days you cannot.
Yeah.
It's just going that daggone good.
I mean, it was a great fishery. Although they weren't as big, but they sure were plentiful.
And
this
I'm
year, so.
completely okay with that. And
Yep.
if you're complaining about the size, well, more power to you, because I'll take that number any day. I'll take those 17 to 20 pounds.
Oh, they're fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're so much
Yeah.
fun. They are so
lot of-
full of it when
yeah.
they get on that. And I don't know what it is about the last couple of years, Winn, and maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't, but they just seem extra froggy lately. I don't know
there's-
what's gotten into them lately. Maybe it's just me and I'm getting old and I don't want to deal with it. But they seem to get extra froggy lately.
No, you take a 15-pound king, he's got a lot of energy. But in talking to the boys that have been fishing late into the fall, there's a lot of that 8 to 12-pound fish being caught out there. So so that tells me next year they might be a little bit bigger than
Could
they
be.
were this year. I mean, I think you're going to see more of that 16 to 18 instead of the 12 to 15. We had a lot of kings this year, 12 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
They were
What was
much
your
more.
biggest king last year?
And that's the scary thing is that it wasn't that big. I think it was 23, something like that.
22 and a half
Yeah.
on our boat.
Yeah,
22 and a half.
I entered it I was in the ultimate
Salmon Derby.
salmon derby, which is kind of if they run it this coming year, that's kind of a hidden gem out there.
Oh, you're not kidding. Yep.
There's amazing how few people get into it, and yet how much money they paid off
Absolutely.
every 2 weeks for the big king, and they weren't that big. I mean, now my 23-pounder was second place in it for a 2-week period, so it wasn't the biggest one. But I don't think there was anything over 25 or 26 pounds that was ever weighed in that. And they paid every 2 weeks. This year they didn't have a great turnout. I'd love to see that build.
I would too.
But they still gave $9,500 every 2 weeks to the
Yes.
biggest king. And so that's
That's a tournament payout.
That's a really good payout.
That is really
Mostly
good.
for a charter captain. It was $800 to get into it for the whole season for your
Yes.
whole boat. So if you're a charter captain and you're out there fishing every day, you really
Should be in it.
should be in it because it doesn't take much to.
It doesn't take anything more than one trip.
Yeah.
One guy or one gal that throws
Oh, yeah.
their 18-foot London in Manistee or Ludington on a weekend in August, and they walk away with the grand prize.
I mean, quantity of fish, you're going to get quality, and if you're out there every day, you're going to get them.
Yes.
Now, I did enter some lake trout in it.
Excuse me.
Some lake trout that were over 20 pounds that I weighed into it and won some trinkets that way too. So they have other divisions, but
Yes.
but I think it's I know he's trying real hard to get that going, and I'd love to.
I'd love to see more participation.
Yeah,
as well.
I would too, and
'Cause
it
they're-
really doesn't make sense. I talked to my charter captain friends down in St. Joe that they don't even know anything about it, and I said, you're stupid not to get into
Right.
this thing.
I would agree with
They
you.
talk about their 25-pounders they catch. Well, those are worth a lot of money.
And
so.
talk about two of the nicest people. The
Yeah,
guy,
very nice. Gabe
and his
Yeah,
wife
right.
that run it. Courtney, two of the nicest people, honest and trustworthy. Also,
Yeah.
it's not like they're out there trying to pocket a boatload of money off this.
No,
thing.
I mean
They're honest
it's an
people.
idea that they're trying to make work, and I'd love to see it work
Yeah.
better. And,
I applaud it.
And,
Absolutely.
yeah, so
I'm going to give you one more question, and we're going to open it up
Sure.
here to everybody else.
Yeah,
If
great.
you could, I know these kind of questions aren't fun, but if you could give one piece of advice to somebody that wants to get into tournament fishing, what would it be?
probably the answer to that is that, and you always hear about this. People go out the day before a tournament and they just knock the crap out of the fish. They can't do anything wrong. Day of the tournament, they get out there and they can't figure it out.
Right.
Tournament fishing is as much as some people would argue with me, it's a mental thing. There's a lot. It's and I catch myself. I'll be all worked up that morning on our way out, and my wife will say, "You need to have a coffee and Bailey's or something to settle yourself down."
Take the edge off.
Yeah, if you're all worked up and nervous about it, you probably aren't going to do as good as if you go out to just have a good time and fish the tournament. Try to do everything right, but that's what the practice day is make notes on the day before, the few days before. Okay, I caught them. I've been catching them at the water is this temperature at 50 foot down, and I'm catching fish at that depth or whatever it might be.
Right.
And so that if the water does change on tournament day, you know, well, it got colder, maybe I need to come up a little bit, or I need to
Right.
go down. So, you know, you got to really analyze what you're doing, but don't get worked up over it. You know, I mean, that's because people do. You know, they got money riding.
You're not going to win every one either.
You're not going to win every one. That's
And then
for
this
sure.
is coming from a
That's
guy, you fish every tournament on the trail every
yeah,
year.
yeah. We fished. If we
Excuse me.
this year we would have fished if you count the ones during the week and the ladies tournaments and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We would have fished 21 tournaments this year, but because of the MANISTEE getting canceled, we fished 20 tournaments this year throughout the summer. So, and I don't care if it's a ladies tournament or one that pays $20,000, you still there's a mental. It's a real test for your brains out there.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. When I first started tournament fishing, I jumped through a bunch of teams. Some teams are really high. I mean, tighter than a banjo string.
Yeah.
And when we finally figured it out, and I got 3 of my good friends, and we just went out there and just fished.
Right.
We just went fishing. We
Yep.
didn't run ourselves through the meat grinder trying to figure out what we're doing wrong. You know, beating each other up over things. We just went fishing.
Oh, it
and
makes a
when
big
when
difference.
we learn to trust our instincts and talk with one another, you know, what would you do? You know, what would you do? What do you think? Normally, you'll come up with a pretty good consensus.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just didn't. We just had a good time at that point.
Yeah, I mean, my crew is my wife Angie
Mm-hmm.
and Jeff Krause, who's fished with us for 10 years in all the tournaments.
There you go.
There's 3 of us, and I used to have 4, 5, 6 people on the boat. And when you get a lot of personalities, sometimes it doesn't help. You know, if I had somebody else on the boat that kept saying, maybe we should move out, or we haven't hit a bite for an hour, maybe we should do this or
Sure.
do that, then you start questioning yourself. And the minute you're out there and you put your lures down, and then you start questioning the lures that you've put down,
Right.
I'll put a wager on it, you're not going to do that good. You've got to have confidence that what you're putting down is what
Yes.
you're going to catch fish on,
Yes.
and you're going to stick with it.
Absolutely.
You know, you can modify, you know, and change colors and do that, but you really have to have confidence in what you're doing. And you can't, you know, and you can't chase somebody else's fish either. That's probably another thing. You think, God, they're catching them. I gotta run over.
We
there
gotta
and
do
try
what they're
that.
doing.
Yeah, and that doesn't, you know.
Never fish somebody else's program.
In
That's
a
the number one
tournament,
rule.
I say if you don't move at all, it's the best. If you move once, you sometimes can figure it out and have a good comeback. At the time that you move 3 times,
Yes.
you're shot.
Yeah.
You know, you've screwed yourself for that day.
And
You know,
another
so-
thing, if you don't mind me throwing it in there, is remember that it is a 2-day tournament.
Oh yeah,
And a lot of tournaments are won and lost on day 2.
yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, you got to put it
Yeah, you
together on
can't-
2 days.
Yeah, you can't win it on the first day, but you can lose it on the first day.
Yes, you
So,
can.
and that's-
We've done that.
But that's, you know, we do it as a hobby. We love it. You know, if you do it for the money, you really
Oh, yeah.
should take up something different, because it's not, you're never going to, you know, we had a really good year before last, but we still technically didn't break even. But we had a lot of fun, you know, and which we do every year. We just enjoy it, enjoy going to different harbors.
Your wife says it's all about the music, so I don't know.
Oh yeah, music and cigars, and maybe a beer here and there too.
Absolutely.
That helps.
That helps you keep you a little loose too.
Yeah.
When,
Oh yeah, you just got to relax.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you sum that up in such a nice package right there, some great advice on tournament fishing. Just go fish. Have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Don't get wound up. I learned that the hard way. Trust me. Don't fish somebody else's program.
Yeah.
Just because you're getting 5 different phone calls. Oh, we're getting them. We're getting over here. This is the spoon. Trust what you're doing.
Yeah.
Trust what you're doing.
I usually, when I'm fishing a tournament, I will not answer my phone or talk to anybody until like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that all that's going to do is confuse you.
Yes.
You know, it's usually I have fished enough that I know that I'm going to be somewhat in the area. I hope that I am, and I find that the minute I start talking to everybody, it just seems like things go downhill.
Couldn't have said that better.
It's all in your brain. And it's the same way if you go to a casino and play at a blackjack table. If you have a positive attitude and really feel good about what you're doing, you'll probably win. You sit at that blackjack table, the negative, I never win. Dealer's going to get me this time
Yep.
again. I'll guarantee you you're going to lose.
You're
You might as
gonna
well take
walk
the
out-
money and throw it in the lake.
You're gonna walk out a little poorer for sure. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
that's a great analogy right there. Yes,
Oh, it's
and
definitely-
blackjack, same thing. You stick to your basic game plan. I stick to basic.
to it.
I stick to basic strategy when it comes to blackjack. I tend to stick to basic strategy when it comes to fishing
Yeah,
too.
and if you have a fun table, you'll do a lot better than you've got a grumpy
Oh, you're
table.
not kidding.
So,
Yeah.
It's just like having a fun boat. So.
All comes into play. I had a great question come in. Let's open it up to questions right now. Great question just came in. Let me see where that went. From Joe Kresnick saying, for a first-time tournament guy, what would you suggest to enter? A category like a 333 or the overall tournament? What do you think for a first-timer?
Well, very briefly, don't want to use up too much time. We tried something different in St. Joe this year, which is a takeoff of what they do in a tournament up in Frankfurt during the week, and that's, we call it a 7 hours. It's, you catch 7 fish, it's 7 hours, it's $700 to get into it, and we paid 7 places, with 7th place being $1,000. First place was close to $20,000.
Very nice.
So we pay off like over $40,000 in 7 places. Why I bring that up is that tournament, anybody can go out and get 7 fish. Going out and getting 12 fish can be challenging. Most for somebody that doesn't catch, I had guys say, well, I don't get in your tournament in St. Joe because we haven't caught 12 fish in one day all year. Why would we get in it?
That's a great
7
point.
fish. And we had a decent turnout for that reason, and we paid off well. So I would say if you're just getting into a tournament or getting into it, then the 333s are great. That's more aimed more at the derby side of it,
Yes.
getting 3 big fish, which is a wonderful thing. But the amateur side can be fun. It could be, and a lot of the tournaments, the amateur side, they just weigh their best 5 fish in most cases.
Yes.
It's a smaller amount of fish. So that's how I would answer it, is stick with the smaller, get your feel, get your confidence, and then maybe step up,
Move on
if
from
you
there.
want to go up to the pro side.
That's what we did also. We started, I think we did 1 333 only to start, and then we got into the AM with the 333 and then just went up from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way. Great advice. Dan Kelsey saying, just got a fishhawk probe given to him. Lucky you. What else do you need to get? Transducer receiver? Yes, you'll need to get the head unit and you'll need to get the transducer. If you get a hold of fishhawk, they will walk you through everything that you need, and you'll
Right.
you got the heartbeat of it right there with the probe. So yeah, you just need a couple other things. Huey Merrill, good fisherman. He's on here all the time saying the old kiss method. Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yes, I agree with you, Huey. Keep it simple. Stupid. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got going on here. Not many questions. That's fine. Let's check on the poll real quick. If you haven't taken the poll, please do so. We got almost 70 votes on there. So the poll question of the night is, are you a successful whitetail hunter in 2025? And you got 3 options. Yes, because I'm obviously a big deal. No, I should stick to gardening. And third option is, what's a whitetail? And winning right now is 44%, no, I should stick to gardening. But 38% of you have gotten a deer, and
that's great.
18% don't know what a whitetail is. So you'll probably hit one with your car on the way home.
Yeah. It's interesting. I
no,
didn't,
say that.
we have a home on Hamlin Lake, and that's why I'm up here. And I did not hear a lot of gunshots this year.
Yeah.
Usually it sounds like World War II out
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And this year it was very quiet. I didn't hunt myself, but it seemed very quiet.
Yeah, you and I talked about that yesterday
Yeah.
on the phone. I was running
that's right. You were
running a
fishing.
river trip yesterday morning. I think I heard 4 gunshots the whole morning.
Yeah. It was
And,
quiet.
but surprisingly, Winn, there was probably 20 boats out fishing yesterday morning. The most I've seen in a long
Really?
time
Yeah.
on an opening day, which was nice.
Yeah.
Normally we have it all to ourselves, a couple 3 boats, but hey, that's fine. Pros cons of the this is from Salty Walrus Fishing Company. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Pros and cons of the different probe systems. Currently running one Fishhawk Lithium Ultra on your kayak, but setting up a second kayak, so open to the Smart Troll or Scotty Seeker. I can't speak on the Scotty Seeker. I can speak on the Smart Troll and the Fishhawk. Both are great systems, and both work very well with one another. So it really depends on what you're going to be doing on that kayak, what presentation is going to be doing. If you're just running downriggers and a couple long lines, you could easily just run a Fishhawk. If you're going to run a diver on there,
Well, I was going to say, if you're on a kayak, I doubt you have a downrigger. Maybe you have a little downrigger.
Some
off the
do.
back. Yeah, some do.
some
And
do.
so that would be fine. I would say probably the Smart Troll would be a better route to go, because if you're running 2 divers, you could put that on one of them, and at least you got a better feel of your what depth you're down, the temperatures and everything.
Yeah.
So,
If you really want to go hardcore and make it the ultimate kayak out there, go with both. I have both
Yeah.
on my boat,
Yeah.
and I depend on both. So yeah,
yeah, I do too.
be that guy
Yeah.
or that gal. Dan the Mattress Man, great name. Dan's such a good guy.
Hopefully he sells mattresses.
He doesn't. He says, so for downrigger, braid back here in about 40 feet of Florida, or loop the fluoro through the blacks release, not the braid. Yes, don't put the braid in the blacks release. It will chew that braid to shreds.
Now, I'm using a rubber band, so it
You can
doesn't
get
make
away
it-
with it.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if I'm going to run a braid downrigger, I think I have 60 or 70 feet of fluorocarbon on there
Right.
that I can use as that's now my leader. And I make sure to put that mono or fluoro into the release.
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna lose something. You definitely will lose something.
Yeah.
From Blind Osprey, this is my first mate, Tim. He's
okay.
a great guy, good fisherman too. He says, Winn, St. Joe, early body baits or Dodger peanut fly, if you had to choose between the two. What do you think?
Well, I'd say early. It depends on what early is. When we're catching a small coho, I just load it up with thin fins, small body baits, and
Yes.
just. But that's more of a production type fishing. I would say at that point now, if you go down to Michigan City, they're all running small Dodgers and flies. So and I don't know, and I do keep them on board and I do catch fish on them, but I can't say that I'm. I think body baits for me to answer that question.
You're the guy to go to on that when I don't have much of a say.
Yeah.
Tim fishes down there all the time too, so I'm surprised he's asking. But
The old red thin fin is probably the most productive.
with the black squiggle,
Yeah.
oh
that,
yeah,
day in and day out.
Yep.
If the water's real churned up, I'll go to more your chartreuses and
Yeah.
things like that.
That black or the red with the black squiggle for my steelhead baits, my mag lips and my quick fish, that produces so good there as well. Another fantastic color. It just seems to work everywhere.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Somebody mentioned something about a whitetail. I missed that. Where'd that go? I missed it. Somebody said they had a whitetail or something. Oh, here we go. Dan Kelsey said he had an 8.10 a doe in the yard yesterday morning when he headed out to his stand. Go figure.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I grew up on a little farm down central Michigan, and we had goats. And every year, those goats were the best deer call you could have. We would see
Really?
more bucks in our yard going up to those goats. And I always thought, if I just took one of those goats out there with me and tied it to a tree, I would
That's
have
funny,
the best
yeah.
buck lure in the world. I never did it, but yeah, we all the time they were going up and looking at those does. Let's see here. Smart Troll's on here. Good to see you, Daryl. He says hopefully he'll be on the podcast to announce some new Smart Troll announcements in January.
Oh.
He's got some new stuff coming out.
All right.
Looking forward to that, Daryl.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, you're welcome anytime. From SBG 927, do you think it's necessary to go spastic when a rod goes off and frantically grab the rod, or just keep calm and grab the rod in a timely manner without losing your mind? I know how I'm going to answer this. I'll answer first. I'll let Winn
Okay,
think about it.
Sure.
I can't help myself. When that rod goes off, I turn into the most spastic idiot you've probably seen on a boat, and I'm running all over the place trying to figure out which rod it is normally, or pointing at a rod that's going off next to my first mate's head because he can't hear anything. He could have a 10 color ripping right next to his ear and he can't hear it.
Yeah.
So it's normally one of those two. But when I do get to the rod, I do take my time and get it out of the rod holder. You don't want to do something stupid, yank that thing the wrong way, break your rod, break your line, lose the fish, etc. So when you seem like a much more calm person than I do, so I can only imagine. But
Well, I would say if the rod that I fish on the bottom for lake trout or down deep, I catch kings on it also. That one I try to be relatively fast on because
Yes.
mostly if it's released, that rubber band, you got to crank fast and
Yes.
hard, and that one you got to be fast. Out downs, I would say out downs, you need to be somewhat fast on. You got to get to it. I can't say I would, jump over. When I have a charter route, I allow my charter to actually grab the rods, and obviously by the time they realize that there's a hit, and by the time they get there, that sometimes it's too late.
They're too late.
Divers, those there again, when I have a customer grabbing it, or even somebody else on the boat, I just say, take your time. Mostly if it's a larger king, he's ripping at it.
Yes.
He's running line. There's really no hurry. Just take your
Absolutely.
time getting it out of there. I keep the rod off the side of the boat right away.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you want to do when you have a big king really running is grab the rod out of the rod holder and bring it right to the back of the boat, because all of a sudden you've dropped your tip on them.
Great
And when
point.
they're shaking, they
Great
get
point.
just a little bit of slack, and,
Yes.
and they're down there shaking their head and trying to get away. That's all it can take sometimes for that fish to get off. So I always say when a bigger fish, the little fish you can grab and it doesn't make any difference,
Yeah.
But on a bigger fish, fight him for 5 seconds or so off the side of the boat till he's steadily running, or he's quit running and you're starting to crank or whatever.
Right.
But don't get it to the back of the boat too quick. Take your time.
Great advice, Winn.
Yeah.
Great advice. Same thing I tell people all the time. It was salmon are marathons. They're not sprints. You'll lose a salmon quicker by trying to overhaul that thing or overhorse it than you will by
Let them get out there. I always let them, mostly on the kings, let them get out there and then work them back in. Don't panic if they're running long.
Are you
That's what
this is a great segue into this question.
Yeah.
Are you a rod pump guy, or are you a steady reel, or a combination?
I would say, depending on the fish, on the salmon, I would say pump it. On lake trout, it's more just a consistent. I use a 2-speed
it tight
reel.
right to 'em.
Sometimes I put it in a different speed and just crank,
Yes.
and let. So it really depends. It depends on the fish, the
And
size of the fish.
I think it
and
depends
that's
on the angler also, because there's a lot of anglers out there, even though if you try to coach them, when they start bullwhipping that thing down on a pump,
Yeah.
they tend to lose a lot of fish.
Well, you have to learn how to start cranking before you drop the tip.
Correct.
And if you can't do that, but yet if you stand there and just crank, you're not going to make much progress either. So you really have to.
Right.
You have to. I always say you bring the fish in with the rod, not the reel. The reel is strictly something to put
Yeah.
the line on. So you're fighting that fish with that rod. You're pulling him in with the rod. You're just putting the line on the reel. So that's what the reel is for. So knowing how to anticipate that fish, there's a trick to it.
Absolutely.
Some fish, no matter what you do, you're going to get. There's some fish, no matter what you do, you're going to lose. It's just what it is.
It is what it is. You're absolutely right. One thing I try to tell people is when they come back and they'll pull back, I'll say pull it down with the reel.
Yeah.
Don't drop it like loosely.
Yeah.
Pull
Yeah.
it down
Oh,
so
yeah,
you
you don't
feel
have to
that
drop it
thing.
back
You
with it.
feel that line actually being pulled down with the reel,
Yeah.
and that seems to help people.
But you might have a little kid on the boat and he's dropping that rod
Oh,
and shaking it, and that fish still comes in just fine.
It's
So-
usually the last 50 to 100 feet also, because people get fatigued,
Right.
and they start really, I call it Indiana Jones in it. They really start whipping at it. But
Yeah.
the more you do it, the better you get at it also.
Yeah, it's all feel.
Who nets the fish on your boat?
I allow sometimes. Depends on the group that I have. If
What about tournament? Let's ask
tournament,
that. Yeah.
that's everybody.
Great.
Basically. Actually, my wife Angie, she's excellent at it.
Good.
But when we have as small of a crew as we do, it's whoever's not fighting the fish. We're
Absolutely.
If we have a larger fish, sometimes we'll bring out both nets, because there is a time when you have a nice king and all of a sudden he'll dart, the other side or whatever. Or I've had times when that you go to scoop and the hook pops out, at least somebody else got a net. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's just it's always a good idea to have a second net ready to go, on a larger fish. So.
Let's see here. Salty Walrus wants to know, how far out does a smart troll read the probes? I've put it on 300 and 400 coppers, and I've gotten readings back on that. Daryl, you're on here. If you could answer that in the comments, I would really appreciate that. Your wife laughed at something. I think she was laughing at when I said I run around like an idiot on the back of the boat. Or maybe it was something you said.
Probably something I did. It's, I'm quite sure I'll get critiqued.
Jason C says, heard of a few guys getting spastic and dropping a rod into the drink. I've heard of that also.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got going in here.
I think on that smart troll, I've heard it's good for 300 foot. And it seems like I lose my signal when I have one on a diver. It seems like when it's out about 200 to 300 foot, I do lose a signal.
I've put mine into manual mode, and I play with the gain settings, and I can actually get a little longer readings than that. Yeah.
I'm not that technical. I guess I should
Daryl
do
walked. He came to my boat. He walked me through everything. He got me dialed in. So that was wonderful. Doug X3E wants to know: do you keep the rod tip high or keep the rod tip down low? Doug, that's a great question. What I tend to tell people, and Winn, I'll let you chime in on this also, when you're first fighting the fish, like Winn said, it's a great idea to keep that rod just steady someplace where you're not whipping it all over the place. When you're starting to work that fish, I don't mind the pump as long as you're doing it well. when I get people to the last 100 feet, 75 to 100 feet, I start having them bring it in horizontally. It keeps the rod tip lower towards the water, and you're not trying to pull that fish's head up out. The fish can only go so high. It gets to the water, it can't go any higher.
Yeah.
So I think everything you can do to keep that head down, the nose down, does help. And when I'm interested to see what you say, though.
Oh, I would say I do about the same as what you're saying. It really has to do with sea conditions. You know, if it's a rough day,
Yes.
you know, if it's a really rough out there or sloppy, I tend to keep the rod lower and keep them down. You don't want that fish on top surging, you know,
Yes.
or getting jerked with the waves, and so I keep it lower. Lake trout, I keep it low. That lake trout, it's just a matter of keeping it low and keeping them down. So until you get them behind the boat and then get them up to scoop them.
We always say if they're shaking, there's no cranking.
Yeah.
You don't want to be reeling a lake trout when they're shaking that head. You will
Yeah,
lose that thing
that's-
just like that. Hey, lines are starting, so we better start wrapping this thing up. I did want to make one quick announcement, though, that I got from Leroy Dowding today from Purple Taco. Purple Taco Fly Supply, some of my favorite people, some of my favorite products out there. They will be doing their Black Friday sale. Pardon me, I've been talking for almost an hour. Their Black Friday sale on purpletacoflysupply.com. Run from November 27th through Monday, December 1st. Free shipping in the U.S. and reduced shipping in Canada. If you use code TURKEY10 in the coupon space, you'll get 5% off your purchase. And there was something else that he wanted to say. Special prices on components and materials in the bargain boat. So why not jump on there? If you're gonna buy fly material over the winter, you might as well save some money. So purpletacoflysupply.com, code TURKEY10, November 27th through Monday, December 1st. Right? Yeah. Guys, we'll leave it open here for another quick couple of minutes. If anybody wants to jump in on another question, we'll wrap the poll up. So, 39% of you got your buck, and you're obviously a big deal. Congratulations. 44% say you should stick to gardening, and 17% have no idea what a whitetail is. We'll end that poll right there. We have polls like this every week. I love them. Love them. The people on this channel, Winn, are some of the best people, if not the best people in the fishing community.
That's great.
Outdoor community. You go on any other outdoor forum, you know how people just trash each other. There's never this way, and I appreciate everybody being on here tonight and being that way. You have no idea how much that means to me. Super chatters tonight. We had 3 super chatters. I want to say thanks to those guys. Jason C. We had Jason C. It doesn't tell me the other ones. Tell me who I want to see here. Jason C., Craig Rao, and there was one more. Huey Merrill. Thanks, guys, for the super chats. You guys know how well that helps out the channel, so thank you very, very much for that. Captain Winwolf, thank you.
Well, thank you.
No,
for
no,
having me.
thank
It
you,
was
man.
fun.
That wonderful having you on here.
Yeah.
All the people that are on here tonight, give a thanks to Winn. He did take time out of his busy Sunday to come and spend with you guys.
I'm looking forward to getting on the water next year already.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, you're hitting the river here soon, aren't you?
Yeah, starting tomorrow, I'll be fishing pretty much every day up to about the holidays.
Are you guiding or are you just going?
I have customers. Most of my customers the same customers go every year.
Okay.
You know, so I have kind of the same groups.
Yeah, I get a few
As
also
I move
that
around
way.
Lake Michigan, I have the same groups at each of these year after year. Some of them are getting a little older, so maybe I have to look for some newer customers. But overall, they're the same customers.
Guys, if you want to fish with Winn and his wife Angie,
Yeah.
I will put a link to their website down here. But what is your website, real quick, Winn?
WinnAndAngel.com.
WinnAndAngel.com. Hop on there, but I'll put a link also to their social media points when I get home. Also,
can do that too.
Angie sent me those on the.
Did she? Yeah.
She texted them to me, so
Good.
I'll put them on for you guys. So if you want to
Sounds
check them out,
great.
Facebook, Instagram. I don't know where else you guys are, but wherever you might be,
She might have us on more.
check. I'll put them on there for sure for everybody. Go Lions, by the way. You a Lions fan?
Well, being that they're from Michigan, yes. I
Okay,
am.
great. You're welcome back anytime. Winn.
All right.
All right, guys, we're out of
Thank
here. Thanks so much. We will see. Oh, next Sunday or the Sunday following. Next Sunday, I believe, is Thanksgiving. Am I right on that? It's a week of Thanksgiving. Not sure if I'll be on or not, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, I will do the end of the show wrap up. I could not say no to having Winn on the show tonight, but I will do the end of the season wrap up with a couple, 3 other captains coming up very, very soon. But this guy was worth having on.
I don't
So
know about that, but,
Yeah,
but it was nice being on.
I appreciate that. All right, we're out of here, guys. All right, we'll end that. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks.
Winn, you did.